name is Jessica, and I just wanted to share a little bit about how God saved me and got me to a closer relationship with Him. I was grateful, I guess, to grow up in a Christian home with parents who were believers. And I actually remember when I was 3 or 4 years old, sitting down with my dad in my bedroom, just praying to accept God into my life and accept Jesus. And I really believed what I was doing, and I believed in God, I think, my whole life. But at the time, that was kind of it. I didn't really have a relationship with Him much beyond that, except to pray for things that I wanted, really kind of silly, selfish things, mostly useless things. Just ask for, pretty hair or some boy to like me or something. It was just not very Christ-focused, I guess. But it was just stuff that I wanted. And when I was 8 years old, we moved to another country, which was very religion-focused. It was very interesting, and I got very interested in the Catholic religion because that was what the country was focused on. But I didn't meet a whole lot of people who were very focused on Christ as much as on the religion. It wasn't certainly not true of everybody. There were some very strong believers there, I believe. But I was very focused on the religion and learning about that aspect. And but again, not very into a relationship with Christ. I just kind of believed that there was a God, and I could ask Him for what I wanted if I wanted something. But as I grew older and I became a teenager, I got to be very depressed and very upset with everybody. I just wanted to be popular. That was my focus in life. And I was not very popular for many years. I'm not sure I've ever been popular. And that was my big focus, and I was so upset. Why can't I be popular? I want everybody to like me, and I didn't really have any friends, so I was just sad and depressed all the time. But when I was 13 or 14, I went back to visit some family, and they were very focused on Jesus. And they just seemed happy, and I didn't understand. They had this great joy inside of them, even when things were going wrong. And I really didn't understand, but they started taking me to church with them, and it was a very Christ-focused church that they went to. And I learned a little bit about Him, and I started to pray. And He would lead me closer to Him, but I didn't really know anybody who was, that I knew where I lived was very focused on Him in the way that they were. Well, we wound up moving back to the States a few years later, and He led my parents to a church, and they signed me up for a retreat to go on. And I went on this retreat, and a lot of the kids there had that joy in them that I'd seen in some of my family members, and I was just amazed at them. They didn't swear, and they weren't drinking, and they weren't talking about inappropriate things all the time, and that was what I was used to. And I just started listening to the preachers who were there and the other kids, and it seemed like they really had this joy in Christ, and that He was their source of strength and joy even when things were going wrong. And I prayed. Again, I didn't really have any friends there on that retreat, just kind of some acquaintances, and they were all very friendly. But I still felt very far removed from everybody. And I just prayed. I said, God, if You can change me, give me this happiness or this joy. If there's something else out there, please show me, because I'm miserable, and I didn't even want to live anymore at that point. I was just miserable. And it wasn't, an overnight change, but I said, God, I just want to follow You. I believe in You, but there's got to be more to it than that. And He showed me that there was, and I started reading the Bible and praying, and I found some really strong believers at that particular church who encouraged me to keep praying and keep reading my Bible and keep hanging out with Christian friends. And I started to do that more and more, and just ask God for the strength to follow Him when I was having tough choices and tough time. And he did, and people started to notice, and I was really surprised that my life was changing, and I was kind of happy, and they started calling me a positive person, and I was just, oh wow, I'm the most negative person I've ever met. This is really neat. And so things started to go pretty well for me through high school, and I really enjoyed just going to church. I went to all different kinds of churches and just loved every one of them. And loved getting to know how people worship God in different ways in Bible-believing churches. And went kind of well through college. I was kind of upset because I hadn't met someone to marry, and that was kind of depressing, but I was still really focused on God. And they it was a Christian college that I went to, and so they were also very focused on Christ, and I learned there that it's so important not to care so much what other people think of you, except that your witness is very important, and how you represent Christ to others is so important. But you can't go around needing somebody else to like you, to think you're really cool, and I couldn't find that source of strength in friends or in a husband or in anybody, in a job, in money, and anything else. And that was a really hard thing for me to learn. But throughout my years at school, I kind of thought that I learned that, and I kind of go in and out of realizing that throughout my life. But things went pretty well for me again, and I got a job out of college, which I really enjoyed, and so that was fun. And then probably, a couple years out of college, I got really sick with a chronic disease, and it was out of nowhere, a disorder. And I never met anybody with it. I never heard of it before, and it was really scary. And for a while, I thought I misunderstood the diagnosis, but I thought I was just going to die. And I was ready. I said, well, okay, it's been, I guess I've done what I can, and I've witnessed to whoever I can, and that's fine. And then I didn't die, and I kept having to go to the doctor and get stuck with needles all the time. And I just thought, oh, geez, I don't want to do this. This is not a fun life. But I started to meet a lot of people who were a lot worse off than I was, had incurable cancers and things, and I would go and see these people, month after month, and just saw that the ones who believed in God really had peace, and thankfully some of the people I think were cured over time, but not everybody was, and you would see a huge difference in the people who did not have Christ and how they felt about things, and the people who did and were ready to go home, were ready for whatever God had for them. And so I continue to struggle with not liking to go to the hospital all the time, and I have some wonderful family and friends around me who really help me out with that, but it's a serious burden to just about everybody who's close to me. Every time I have to go, I have to shuffle things around, things get shuffled around with work, with my family, with my friends, and it's a big ordeal. So I kind of struggle with that being a massive part of my life now, and I'm grateful it's not worse than it is. And so God is really kind of teaching me through that to just trust in Him. I thought, well, everything's going great, and I can just have this hunky-dory life with God, and it's not that easy. And I think maybe God put that in my path for me to to learn to trust in Him more, and realize that I can't do everything in my own strength. And anyway, I'm just grateful to God for everything that He's done in my life, and it's not been easy, especially in recent years. And I've learned the hard way that I really need to wait on Him instead of just jumping in. I may pray for something, and then if I don't get an answer, in a couple weeks or a couple months, I just go off on my own and decide, well, I'm going to do this. Turns out maybe I should have waited on God and waited to see what He thought about my decision, because I put myself and some other people in some not so great positions because of that. But I'm learning. I'm always trying to learn from my experiences, whether they're positive or negative, and I'm just grateful to God for all that He's brought me through and the people that He's brought into my life. And it's a struggle. I'm not always as focused on Christ as I'd like to be, as I need to be, but I want to be, and I hope that throughout my life I grow and I'm able to witness to others, and I hope I'm able to focus on Him throughout my life. I hope that is what my life is about, and that He is the one whose opinion I care about most.
Well, He's the one.